Harley-Davidson 120th anniversary celebration homecoming here in Milwaukee. And while here, I ran into two people that most of you will know if you watch motorcycling content on YouTube. Nice to see you, Cole.
Hey, buddy.
And Andrea.
Hi.
The Joneses from
Geelong.
Geelong, okay. Geelong Harley-Davidson in, I guess, the city of Geelong, Australia. And you're over here, why?
We were lucky enough to win an award, so we had to come to Milwaukee to pick it up. So we won the Dealer of the Year for the intermediate category of Harley dealers in Australia. So
Excellent, well, congratulations.
We were told by the Managing Director of Australia, Nigel Keogh, that we were going to get presented award before they came out, and then a couple of months ago they were announced in Australia. So we decided that we'd take a trip over back to Milwaukee and collect the award. We were going to meet friends from Canada here in the States, but unfortunately one of them wasn't very well, so we decided to divert and go up to Canada. So we've been up there for a week or so.
Now tell me the true story on how you drug the curmudgeon across a couple of ponds to get here.
Yeah, well, he doesn't like flying. He's not a good flyer, but he decided to come, and especially when we were going to Canada, he really wanted to make the trip, didn't you?
yeah, went to see my old buddy Grant Price. Grant's probably one of the best dealers in the world. He came to Australia 12 years ago, roughly, and opened up a dealership up in Brisbane called Gasoline Alley Harley-Davidson. He completely reset the standard of how Harley dealerships should be, and he won Dealer of the Year for the first 3 years, I think.
Wow, impressive. So how many, let's talk a little bit about dealerships and the differences and similarities between Australia and the US, you know. Are they virtually the same? Are there any differences that are evident?
Well, everything's a hell of a lot bigger here, so the dealerships have room to run full concerts in their parking lots.
Right.
And obviously land isn't an issue in America. In Australia,
As opposed to
it is.
$1 Million Bogan meet and greets, huh?
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, we've had a couple of those, and now that's, I don't know whether you've seen those on YouTube, but that's all the space we have out the front there. It's enough to fit in sort of half a dozen cars, and that's about it. So they got the luxury of endless space here, which is, you know, good on them. They're good. But how they ran, it's a bit different. It's not really fair to compare or judge them at the moment, because they're that bloody busy here with the 120th.
Right.
So I've been into dealerships when there hasn't been any big parties on, and they've been friendly and welcoming. But this time around, they're just too busy. They're just too busy.
Right, right. I know, like where I'm from in San Antonio, our dealerships down there are having bike nights and doing different things, but certainly nothing. You know, it's kind of business as usual there. So you get into an Australian dealership. Is there a different bike selection? Are different bikes popular there? I know there's a couple of bikes that you get there that we don't hear.
Not really. I think it's all the same. We've never not got
the breakout was, you know, one that was different for a few years.
Got that, the breakout and the Softail platform we've always had, because it's our biggest selling bike.
Right.
But I think it's only the first or second year they've released it here again.
This is the first year, yeah.
Yeah, well,
for the
and I see a few of them around. They're popular. So.
They're nice bikes.
Yeah, they're right. They're all good.
Rear tire a little fat for my liking, but.
Well, yeah, if you joined a gymnasium. Oh, sorry, you meant the tire was fat. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry about that, mate.
So you mentioned that the Softails are the biggest sellers over there, whereas baggers, I believe here in the States, I think the Street Glide is the most popular bike here in the States. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think it's what you can get, what you used to. So I fell in love with the Road Glide sort of 12 years ago, and we were going to import my own Road Glide from Canada, from Grant's place, but Peter Knocker brought them to Australia that following year, and I was probably one of the first to get one. And as a result of me riding one around and hotting it up and drag racing it and doing land speed records and stuff like that on it, our little dealership started selling more baggers than anything else.
Really?
So I guess the point I'm making is that the dealership can influence what they sell the most of. I'm not a breakout fan at all, but we sell a lot of breakouts. They're our biggest seller, followed by the Tourers.
So is I would imagine with Australia being so spread out that distance riding or touring is probably as popular there maybe as the States, or would you say yes or no?
Oh, I would say so. It's just a lot more vast over there, and there's still places you can go where you'll have to carry fuel. I doubt if that happens here.
Yeah, I know in some of Danny's videos, you know, he's I've noticed where he's got to either carry some fuel or plan his route pretty carefully.
Yeah, well, Danny's got a special way of carrying fuel, and then when it comes time to put it in the fuel tank, he's unable to do that. I don't know so he needs to carry twice what he actually uses to cover for what he spills. Have you not seen him doing that? He tips it all over the petrol tanks.
For those of you who don't know, Danny is, of course, $1 Million Bogan on the channel of the same name, who happens by to give Cole, probably Cole much more than you, but at least on camera, give Cole a pretty hard time. So go on ahead about Danny.
I'm unable to speak about him under a legal obligation to not talk about him.
Andrea, are you under the same legal obligation?
No, Danny's actually
Excellent.
a very good friend. He and Colin have a bit of a love-hate relationship.
Now, I will tell you up front, he is subscribed to Trip on Two Wheels. I can't honestly tell you how many of my videos he watches, but I do know that he and Parry, on occasion, will watch this channel.
Yeah.
So feel free to just massacre him.
No, I would never do that to Danny. He is a good guy, and the thing about him is the ability that he has to get himself in some very strange situations is totally amazing to me, but he also gets himself out. Like what he does with a Harley,
Right.
not too many other people would ever
Oh,
challenge
definitely,
that.
most definitely. I think he has shown, at least the YouTube world, the social media world, that there is another side of Harley-Davidson that or at least the product,
Absolutely.
that a lot of people probably didn't realize beforehand.
He's good for the, pardon me, he's really good for the brand because he beats the living hell out of his bikes. And we haven't had any genuine Harley-Davidson parts fail, apart from a belt that he broke. But we have a lot of comebacks with the aftermarket snot that he bolts onto his bikes, you know. So I think he shows that, you know, how reliable and sturdy the genuine Harley-Davidson products are.
Well, I think we've got to give you some credit because anything he screws up, you seem to fix.
Oh, yeah. Well, he doesn't screw up much Harley stuff. It's the aftermarket snot that seems to break and goes in the trash. But that's, you know, that's just Danny. Danny builds his bike the way he thinks they should look, and he doesn't listen to our advice very much anyway. So we just do what he says, and then we do it properly later.
The customer's always right, yes?
In Danny's case, that has to stand, yeah.
Plus, you're not fixing them for free either.
Oh, a lot of Danny's work gets done because he's so good to the shop. You know, he doesn't get. If he got charged for all the hours I spent, we'd own his bloody bike by now. But he doesn't get charged for it all.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. You know, Danny just came on the scene, maybe 3 years ago or so, and started out with a slow build, but he's now, you know, he's taken off. He's well over 100, I think maybe 150,000 subscribers now, and his videos do pretty well. How has it affected you guys?
It's helped us in a lot of ways. We certainly get more foot traffic through the door, but they're people that are either looking for Danny or looking for Colin. And some people that come in, we had a lady a couple of weeks ago that had come in from, I think it was from New Zealand, and she said, her and her husband, and they said, you know, they were here because they'd watched the videos and they loved Danny and they really liked Colin, and I was just in the process of saying, well, you know, I'll take you out the back in a moment and you can see Colin, meet him. And then I just said to her, oh, it's your lucky day. Danny's just arrived, and she turned around and she was just absolutely beside herself. She was so excited to see him. So yes, he does help the business, but we also help him as well. So it's a two-way street.
So, you know, have you ever thought about putting up a sign that said, questions about Danny answered, one poker chip?
No, haven't thought of that one yet.
What's a poker chip?
Well, you wouldn't know because you didn't bring any with you, did
Exactly
you?
right. I told you I didn't know about them.
He's not interested in that sort of stuff, the merchandise and the things out the
Oh,
front.
they sell for $3 a piece. Come on.
He's oblivious to it.
$1.50, I think, ours are.
$2.
So most people, Cole, when they see you in videos on YouTube, they see you in the back wrenching, they see you doing a lot of maintenance. So what all at Geelong do you do besides actually working on the bikes?
Well, Andrea and I own it, but we have a very competent general manager that runs it. We have managers in each department, so by now they should be able to do their jobs very well. So we're pretty much, well, Andrea's sort of hands off, and I'm very much hands on, dirty in the workshop.
Right.
So lately with COVID, etc., and the lack of parts and the lack of bikes from Harley, America,
Walk around, we got time.
we've had to rely on the workshop to make money, and so I'd rather keep my hands on the workshop and keep that running well. So we've actually got one of the best profitable workshops in the system, so I'm proud of that. we can make our money out the back, So that's what we do, and we come over here and do stuff like this, and if I want to jump on a bike and ride the Darwin, I'll do that. So
Very
pretty
cool.
much living the dream.
Gives you a little bit of flexibility. So you're both owners. Tell us a little bit about the history of that, how that all came to be.
My late husband Greg and myself purchased Geelong Harley in 1997, and it was in Mercer Street in Geelong. And then in 2008 he was killed in a dive accident off Queenscliff.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I was over in Canada at the time, so went back to Australia, and then a couple of years later Colin came along. We'd already known each other. Greg and I actually went to Colin and his ex-wife's wedding. We were invited to the wedding, so we were all friends, we knew each other. And then Colin sort of came along and it just all clicked, and he moved down from Melbourne down to Geelong, and the rest is kind of history.
Well, very cool. Seems like it's worked out well.
Yeah.
I actually had the pleasure of having breakfast with these two earlier, and they seem to make a really good couple. Get along, good senses of humor.
You paid for breakfast, didn't you?
I refuse to answer any questions regarding.
Well, if you didn't pay for it, the interview's over. That was the only reason you got to do this interview, because you bought breakfast for us. Did we just go up and piss off and not pay?
I thought that was lunch.
We're not going to be with you that long.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't be with me this long if it was up to me. So we're obviously here for the same reason, for the 120th Harley celebration, the anniversary. What all have you done here so far? What are you still yet to do? What's impressed you?
Well, we've done the museum. We had a look through that the other day, and that was unbelievable. We have done it both of us before, but it was great to go back and have another look, because there's always something that you didn't see the first time. Then we had the dealer award ceremony,
Where they tell you about all the top secret new bikes coming in. Is there anything you want to tell me to get the scoop?
No, they don't.
A couple extra views?
They don't tell us anything like that, I'm
Damn it.
afraid.
The new Tourers are electric.
Sweet. They're going to call them the dead wire.
The dead wire.
The dead wire.
And then yesterday we went out to Veterans Park, watched a few bands out there, and saw Green Day. Yeah, they were okay, but actually really looking forward to seeing.
Just for the record,
Foo
I was
Fighters.
too cheap to pay the $207 to see Green Day and the Foo Fighters, but I'm glad some people did. That'll
There was a
keep
lot
them
of
coming
people
back,
out
yeah.
there. Trust me, it was huge.
A lot of people like being called an American idiot, I can tell you.
Yeah, they opened with that one.
Could have been worse, though. Could have got Elton John again. They had Elton John once.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway,
Let's
How was
not
that?
go there.
Okay.
Stop it.
So Danny gets talked about a lot, but we all know he's got a sidekick named Parry. I'm assuming you know Parry pretty well as
Know
well.
Parry very
What's the real book on Parry?
Pretty much what you see is what you get.
yeah. He's not really a stoner. He looks like he's stoned half the time, but I don't think he actually is.
No, he's not.
He's a very successful real estate agent in his own right in Tasmania. He owns the company. He's just a very, very good friend to Danny.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can appear that Danny doesn't reciprocate, but I'm pretty sure he does in his own way.
It sometimes seems like Parry is just along for the ride, putting up with him, just shaking his head.
Well, he's given David Parry's got a lot of publicity out of what Danny does as well, so whether that's good or bad, so there's an old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity. I'm not sure whether I agree on that. We talked about that earlier, and all publicity is good, so therefore it's good for David Parry
Exactly.
too.
You know, we only see what comes across the screen. We don't see the outtakes. We don't see what's cut out. But it seems to me that pretty much everything Danny touches turns to gold somehow.
Well, that's because he's in charge of cutting and editing. Yeah, of course he has failures, and he's only human. But he's in charge of the perception, and he likes to make himself look silly at times, and then he'll try and convince me that it's an act. But I don't think he's acting a lot of the times, but that's when he's stupid.
I notice how Andrea just rolled her eyes.
There's that love-hate relationship again.
So let me ask you, how did you, the both of you, get into motorcycles in the first place? Andrea, were you into bikes before the dealership?
My late husband did Harley-Davidson trikes.
Right.
And sent the components all over the world, to Germany and also to Madison, Wisconsin.
So he actually made parts for the trikes.
Back when Lehman Industries was still in Canada, they were our main competition. So the love of Harley started there.
Now, had you ridden before that, or were you into bikes because of your husband?
No, I got into bikes because of him.
Now, do you ride now at all?
I don't ride anymore. I broke my ankle a few years ago and spent a year in either a moon boot or plaster. Then the bone started to die. I had to have an operation, get it plated and pinned, and I sort of made the decision that if I broke another bone, I could be in real trouble, or if I broke a few. So
you're sticking to cars now,
Sticking to cars, yeah.
Smart move. How about you, Cole?
Oh, I've been into them like most people my age. We had the poster of the Easy Rider panheads on our bedroom walls as kids, and that's where the love started. And then I didn't actually, my first Harley I bought off Greg and Andrea when I was, I don't know how old it was, but it was in 2000.
Right.
So I was pretty late getting into Harleys.
What was your first bike?
A Deuce, the Harley-Davidson Deuce.
Gotcha. And what was your progression? What have you owned along the way yourself?
Oh, I don't think we've really got time. So I've gone more back.
Well, I know now you've got your choice. Pretty much anything on the showroom floor that you choose to depreciate, you can hop on. And
We collect old bikes.
nice.
Yeah, knucklehead, panheads, shovel heads. I like the old bikes. I like them because I can go out for rides on them without losing my license. As soon as I get on one of the new bikes, I don't know how they know, but they catch me.
You get what, 70 to 80 cubic inches. You makes for a better.
Well, my bike's 143 cubic inches, so it's quite.
The one
fast.
now, correct?
Yeah.
Not the old shovels.
Oh,
and
not the
pans.
old 80s. No, it's even smaller. So 80.
So given your druthers, let's say you're going to go out for 2 or 3 hours and just blow off some steam. What are you going to ride now?
I've got an FXRS, 82 FXRS shovel head that's kind of old faithful. It never breaks down. It's always good. And if I want to ride, I just take that out. Or any one of the panheads is always challenging. They're challenging to get going and challenging to stop. That's when the Harley-Davidson made all this big hoo-ha about putting ABS brakes on bikes. It's I was bemused by that because I've never had a Harley yet that could skid the wheel. Brakes were never that good, you know. But, so, oops. It's just the truth. You done?
No.
Hey, there's the Partridge Family bus. Yeah. David Cassidy hanging out the back window. You see that?
Geelong Harley-Davidson, is there anything that you guys specialize in, or you think you do better than maybe a different motorcycle dealership or a different Harley dealership? Anything that you might hang your hat on as, hey, we're really good at this?
Service.
Yeah.
Just service. You can get pretty much anything at any dealer that you can get at ours. So you need to have a point of difference, and our difference is that it's all about service. So especially for people travelling through, we'll have a technician, not spare because you just can't afford to do that, but we'll always have one of the 5 or 6 techs will be able to drop what they're doing and go straight on to a traveller's bike. With my engineering, we can make parts. So a lot of dealerships you'll be pulling to, and the part will be a 6-week wait, and your bike's stuck there for 6 weeks. Well, that won't happen with us. I'll make something, weld it up, machine it, whatever I've got to do to get it fixed and back on the road. So that's a big point of difference.
Excellent. So we talked about parts, or you mentioned parts. How did COVID affect the parts. I know it's been a problem. There were things on back order here in the States for 4 or 5 months at one point, maybe about a year and a half ago. How did that affect you? Are you through that yet? How is that?
Starting to come good. It's COVID was a real shakedown. We couldn't get parts, we couldn't get bikes, we couldn't actually get anybody to answer the telephone. So all of the dealers in Australia were pretty much left to their own devices to just survive it the best way you can. Now that COVID's over and you can't get anybody that wants to work, the young people of the world got very used to being paid to sit on their asses.
That's amazing. We've got the same thing going on here in the States.
So you can't, and why would they? They can get paid the same amount to sit on their asses. That'll slowly change.
Right.
But while it's changing, we can't get freight, we can't get the ships, shipping containers to Australia. Somebody told me it had multiplied by 3, or even 4 times. So Harley have been, there was a rumour that Harley were going to buy their own freight ship. I don't know whether that's going to happen. But
wow.
So there was a trouble, and all of those extra expenses, in a lot of cases, Harley-Davidson head office will absorb the costs of that, so that we can still get the bike to the customer at a reasonable price.
Now, we've had, the price of Harleys has just climbed insanely in the last 3 years. I think 3 years ago when the 883, I think you could get one here in the U.S. for $84.99.
Wow.
And now the last year, the 83, I think it was $13.5. So you're looking at like an 85% increase, which I'm not going to get into the hows and wheres of that, or go down that road. But did you see the same thing happen in Australia, and how has that affected?
Same.
It's happened in Australia, but not just with Harleys, it's with everything.
Yeah.
You still can't go into a supermarket in Australia and have a list of everything you want to buy and get everything that's on that list. It's a worldwide thing.
It's really puzzled me, because if you look at the other bike that I favor is Kawasaki, and I can go in and get a Z900 RS for $10,000, which is arguably in some ways twice the bike that Sportster is, and that's 4 or 5 notches up in Kawasaki's line, where with Harley your entry level is now, or at least was last year, $13,500, and now with the Nightster out there replacing it at least that, you've got to have a low level price bike to get people into the franchise. Have you seen any problem with that there? With just,
we don't have a learner bike anymore for our market, and so it's called a Lamb's bike, learner approved motorcycle. Harley had the Street 500, and that became our biggest selling motorcycle.
Really?
It was getting the young people in, treat them right, and keep them in the Harley family was the theory behind it, and it worked very good. But it turned out that Harley were subsidising the costs of the Lamb's bike. There's meant to be another one coming.
I believe it's a 350 that's made. Is that?
It's 2.
Yeah, well, it's all rumours at the moment until they tell us.
They've actually produced a learner's bike for the Riding Academy. There's been pictures out, and I've seen it. It's a 350, but it's got crash bars on it, and that hasn't come to Australia yet or whatever.
Nothing's confirmed yet, but we have heard whispers of it. So we'll see. We'll see.
Where do you see things going in the future for both Geelong and Harley-Davidson as a whole? You have any insight for us? Your best guess, Cole?
No, it's a little bit political. I'll probably keep my opinions to myself.
That'd be a good idea.
Fair enough. Well, how about Geelong then? We won't get into the...
Well, that's a bit political too. We've got quite a big renovation that Harley are insisting on being done. But in all fairness, they've met us. We've negotiated a way out of it, but we're not out of it. We've still got to do it. But so we've got this dealership. We're 10 years now since I built that store. We're due for a freshen up. So Harley are rolling out a program worldwide called what's it called? Fuel. And all the dealers, they don't want them to look the same, or they say that, but it's sort of a little bit McDonald's. They'll all have the recognisable bar and shield, which they have now, but the script Harley-Davidson's going. So they just want to freshen them all up. And when you discuss it with them about how much it's going to cost, it's pretty much, do you want to be a dealer or don't you?
Right.
So the answer is, if you do, spend the money. If you don't, put a Kawasaki sign up.
So speaking of dealerships, have you gotten a chance to visit any of the local dealerships since you've been here?
Yeah, we went out to the House of Harley, I think it was, or
That was
Milwaukee Harley.
Milwaukee.
yeah, they were run off their feet. So busy.
Yeah.
I don't know how they must have had 50, 60 staff on there. It's Americans amaze me. They like the queue. They'll get in a queue. Australians won't queue up for anything, but
Did you see the line or the queue at the Harley store?
Yeah.
There, it had to be like I don't know, 150 yards long to buy a T-shirt and a poker chip.
Yeah.
yep.
I guess that's dedication. Anything else you've got planned here in Milwaukee before you ship on back out on your two-day plane ride back to
Tour?
back to Geelong?
Yeah,
I got it. Finally. Well, I've had a great time talking with the two of you, and thank you for your time. Cole,
Thanks for taking an
best of
interest.
luck to you.
Thanks.
Andrea,
Thank you.
have a very safe trip back and enjoy the rest of your time here in the States. And until next time, folks, this is Trip on Two Wheels asking you to do two things: ride safe and ride often.
Cool.
Have you subscribed to Trip on Two Wheels yet? Hey, what are you waiting for? Do it now.